What I'm experiencing is on Jeep TJ, my door lock mechanism is jammed. It will not unlock. So if I'm inside, I can't get out unless I roll the window down and unlock the door with the key on the outside. Or in some situations, it may be that the key won't unlock it either because it's jamming. There are plenty of videos on the internet that get you to this point. But what I wanted to show is something that I discovered. What I discovered is that everything in the linkage worked fine except this rod that goes to the back side of your key lock mechanism. And what I discovered is that over time it has gotten loose. Let me go over a little bit of that. The button is up there by the handle. That's what was sticking. At least that's what it felt like. I disconnected this clip right there. And then I went over to the button and noticed that I could move the button freely, and it moved the mechanism and the shafts, everything, all the way to that point. Freely, no issues. So then that process of elimination says there's a binding in this section in here. So that's why I went ahead and disconnected it, checked it, and came to the conclusion that I did. That it actually was the backside Z-shaped locking mechanism piece on the cylinder. So, when I say gotten loose, the backside of the key lock mechanism is loose. So I took a screwdriver, undid this off that rod, stuck the screwdriver in. Let me get it to where you can see. I'm doing this with an iPhone and the camera's on the wrong side. Right there. Took that off to where I can slip this rod out. Okay? So I get the rod out. Then up in, you can't really see, right there. Okay, I'm gonna put my screwdriver on it. This right here, right there, is the tang that holds the lock in place. So what I did was I took a pry bar. Well, I'm doing this one and got behind it and pulled it out. Like so. Then reach in. Well, it's just gonna fall in the door. And this is what you get out, which is what holds your lock cylinder in place, okay? Then you can come around here and pull. Now again, doing this with an iPhone. One more quick point. To get this clamp that holds the lock cylinder in place out, you have to roll up the window because you got to be able to get to the back side of the window up in there to get this piece off. So I ended up having to put the iPhone down. I ended up having to stick my right hand through the inside of the door and push the lock mechanism out, the cylinder that I have in my hand. And what I wanted to show you is where my pinky is. That's that Z-shaped piece. The plastic orange clip is what connects to the rod that I showed earlier. That's what actually, when you turn the key, where my point finger is, in there, and turn the lock with the key, it moves this piece, which is connected to the button on the door, which that's where it was jamming. At least that's what it felt like. But it was actually binding right here because this piece, this Z-shaped piece, was just not quite aligned, and it was binding. So what I did was, you can see that I'm trying to do this again by holding an iPhone. It's a little loose, and what I did was I bent it the direction that my pinky finger is pointing. So I took a pair of needle nose vice grips and put them in the center of this long piece here, and just kind of just bent it. And when I say bent it, I mean less than a 1/16 of an inch. Very, very little. So what that did for me was it aligned this mechanism to where it wasn't drooping like so, and it puts it outward about like that. And that is what aligns all of the linkage to where the button on the door will unlock this cylinder and this mechanism in the door. So, not necessarily, I guess you could replace this piece. Perhaps the shaft on the cylinder is worn, which caused it to get loose. I don't know. Maybe you could replace the entire mechanism, rekey it for your door, for your key. But I'm going to try it this way, just, to see what kind of longevity I get out of it. But just another possible fix for the TJ door lock mechanisms, getting you trapped inside your Jeep or outside your Jeep. So obviously the reversal of this is you take the lock mechanism and you stick it through the door, making sure that your seal is still on there. And then you take your rod, and the rod is such that this extra bent end is what goes up into the lock mechanism up here. This end is what attaches there. And because I'm using an iPhone, I can't do this with the phone in my hand, so I'll be right back. Then to put this back in,
You're just going to have to reach up in there. And again, I've got an iPhone, it's kind of tough to show, but you just slide it back on the cylinder, the back side of the cylinder. Okay, going back to this clip that clips the lock cylinder in place, this bend bends inward towards the interior of the vehicle. That's the way that it goes on, and just slips on the back side of the cylinder. That's best I can show you.
And attach your rod, clipping the orange clips over it to keep it in place. So again, this is how this goes together. You just slip it in there like that, and down there. You flip this over, and you get your finger up in here on a screwdriver. And, oops, I got it going the wrong way. Come in here, flip that down, clasp it on the rod best you can. Clasp. Okay. Then come over here, and my button works nice and smooth. See how it moves that up and down. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Moves that up and down. And you see that piece that you can see where it's bent just a little bit. That's all I did, was to keep it to where it's aligned, it's not sagging, so that it doesn't make the shaft push in the center, so that it kind of binds, so that it doesn't want to flex upward like that. It wanted to actually go down instead of up. That little bend, that's all it took. So what I did was I checked everything. I checked all the plastic pieces. I checked all the clasps. I checked all the rods. I lubed everything with lithium grease. I did everything to make sure that everything was functioning the way that it should, but that didn't work. So I ended up, in the video here, you've seen what I did, but I tried everything prior to that. This might be something you encounter if you have a TJ as a daily driver, and this was my experience and how I overcame it. Thanks for watching. Thanks again, and please subscribe. Comment below. Let me know what you think. If anybody has any other ideas, I'm interested in how you overcame the challenge. Thanks again.